Oh, hi there. How's it going? It's been a while. What's up, everybody? It has been a hot second. We can thank work road trips for that. But I'm back, and we're ready to do a playoff preview kind of video. Now that the regular season is all finished up, we're all getting ready for playoffs. There have been some games that have already been played, we had like a wild card forfeit already, so that kind of moves some things around. So we've got a somewhat put together playoff picture, and we're just gonna run through the different matchups today and kind of show you what's what. So let's start with the plan here. So I'm going to run through the consolation bracket first, and then we'll go through the championship bracket, all the different matchups. We'll talk about rosters, and then hopefully have sound on everything, so it's not just my voice going out and getting lost in the void like the last video I did. So let's start with the consolation bracket. So this is what we have so far. We have the Western Warriors playing the Machoke Daddies. That's your consolation quarterfinal number 1. In the other half of the bracket, it is the Pompous Pikachus and the Gato Stel Diablo. And then the Saffron Shuckles have they lost their wild card game. We'll talk about in a second, and are now in the consolation semifinal round. As the 5th team, awaiting the last wild card decision for who gets into the championship bracket and who drops into that D1 WC number 1 in the lower half of the consolation bracket. So let's talk about each matchup, kind of go through who's got what, and I don't know, maybe we'll get spicy, make predictions. I don't know. I'm just kind of winging it. So first up is your consolation bracket number 1 game, the Western Warriors, coached by Jack, and then the Machoke Me Daddy, coached by Nate. First glance at this matchup, it's against two teams that have kind of been, I think Nate, for starting, with Machoke, I think has been really inconsistent this year, and I think that's why kind of we see him here at 1-6. The Western Warriors, I think, had some really good growth over the course of the season, but I just think like the team building isn't quite there yet. Definitely the draft kind of from the get-go plays a factor into that, right? But, you know, both Nate and Jack, first time doing this, really great showing, still having fun, still getting their games in.
Or at least Jack was getting his games in on time. Nate, I'm looking at you, buddy. I'm looking at you.
Sorry, I had to. But if we look at the rosters for this game, kind of, if we can kind of put together a picture of what this game might look like. Salamence, Crocodile, Tangrowth, Rhyperior, Scolipede, Durant, Espeon, Rapidash, Golduck, and Liepard on Jack's side. Nate has Ferrothorn, Quagsire, Chansey, Milotic, Noivern, Regice, Sharpedo, Glaceon, Sceptile, and Galarian Rapidash. A couple of things that I notice, just here off the bat, and obviously this is all my opinion and very not scientific at all. But on the Western Warriors side, the Salamence Crocodile, two super dangerous Moxie Sweepers that Salamence can run special, it can run physical. Crocodile is fast enough, if you put a scarf on it, to really be a dangerous threat. Tangrowth, super defensive, but also has just enough offensive stats to just be a threat if he wants it to be. Rhyperior is a little one-dimensional, but it has hazards and can play a defensive role for him. Scolipede, obviously, with speed boost is super scary in the right circumstances. Durant, I think, has been underutilized this year for Jack. I think even though it has the hustle ability and the accuracy isn't always there, I think it's a dangerous thing if you set up with it. And it's got decent stats all the way around, and it's spooky fast for where it is in the tier list. Espeon is a solid special threat, has magic bounce and some things that could help in a game against a Fairthorn. Rapidash has decent matchups against Nate's team. It's not the greatest, but it could be worse. Golduck and Liepard, role players that could see some play. I think Golduck has been used a couple of times. Liepard, I'm not sure how much Jack has really played around with it, but Prankster's such a good ability that a Prankster T-Wave or Taunt or something like that could be kind of cool. On Nate's side, Fairthorn obviously is a defensive monster. Spikes, Leech Seed, just the defensive stats to really be a threat with body press and things like that. Quagsire is, I think, a little underwhelming without some other key pieces to the lineup. It's got amnesia and some things that would help it be a little bit more defensive and set up. But I think it's not, when you look at the rest of the teams and where Quagsire fits in the tier list, as a tier 2, I think there's better options out there. Chansey is thick with a couple of C's, and Nate's used it really well. Milotic, also a defensive Pokemon that could be kind of like a key piece in the game against that opposing Krookodile or Rapidash. Noivern, I think Nate has played too safe with it in the past couple of weeks. Like, use its offense, it's fast, go for it. Regice, Sharpedo, Glaceon, all three of those a little bit more on the frail side. Maybe not Regice, I guess, but Sharpedo and Glaceon, kind of not necessarily huge threats that have been used throughout the year, but they definitely could be. Glaceon's a really cool, a pure ice type. Alongside Regice, maybe there's some shenanigans you can do with like Hail Blizzard or I don't know. I'm talking on my backside here. Sceptile, Galarian, Rapidash. You kind of know what you're gonna get with those two. So if I had to put like a bet on this game or who I think is gonna come out on top, I'm gonna actually give the edge to Jack on this one. I think Jack has been improving every week. He's been putting in the work to start learning from some of his pitfalls in the early weeks, and has definitely improved overall. And I think Nate's been so inconsistent and so all over the place that I give the slight edge to Jack here, even with a little bit more limited team. So that's your consolation bracket number 1 game. Let's jump into the winner of that game. Will go on to face Dylan, head coach of the Saffron Shuckles, in the consolation semifinal. So Dylan's team is Clefable, Nidoqueen, Rotom Wash, Flygon, Suicune, Talonflame, Decidueye, Regirock, Duraludon, and Cradily. Dylan, I still think drafted one of the best teams top to bottom, and just I think underperformed over the course of the season. He was in a winnable division, or a division where, he could have done more, I think. But I think, just plays a little too fast potentially. I'm not sure. I'm not watching his games live every week, but that was definitely his downfall in season 1. And I think, this team is really good on paper. Clefable is one of the best defensive, clerics out there. Nidoqueen and Rotom Wash both fill their role extremely well. Nidoqueen being able to soak up Toxic Spikes, set Stealth Rocks, be offensive on the special or the physical side. Rotom Wash is just all the Rotoms are just kind of good. Electric Water is a pretty good typing. Flygon, Suicune, both kind of really good role players in the tier 3 spot. Talonflame hits like an absolute truck. Is a little frail, but is definitely a threat that you have to look at. Decidueye has a really cool move set. A little one-dimensional on what you can do with it, but is also, just good. Regirock obviously is a meme, but he's gotten a kill with it before. Duraludon I think is super under-tiered when you look at what it can do. Maybe the stats aren't quite there, and that's why it's in tier 5. But and then rounding it out, Cradilly, Dylan's used to pretty good effect throughout the season. So I definitely think that Dylan is one of the favorites to potentially come away with the Constellation Championship. It really just kind of depends on how these games play out, and I could definitely see him making it to that final in the lower bracket. And then finally, the other match of the Constellation bracket that we know of so far is the Pappas Pikachus, coached by Caleb, and the Gatos del Diablo, coached by Harry. Let's just look at the teams first before I start throwing shade or anything like that, which I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm trying to be helpful and critical, but also
your games.
Landorus, Therian, Rotom Heat, Mamoswine, Gardevoir, Magnezone, Executor, Beware, Pikachu, Hitmonlee, and Jellicent for Caleb. Harry has Latias, Gyarados, Alakazam, Mimikyu, Galarian Slowbro, Escavalier, Comfey, Cofagrigus, Ditto, and Exploud. Harry's team, we've said it before, we'll say it again, I think it's trying to do too many things and is not really doing one thing well. And I think that's kind of where his downfall has been, other than the fact that he's got a crazy school schedule, is super busy all the time, and doesn't really always have the time to get in the prep that he needs. But we know what Harry's capable of. This is a really, as far as this matchup, it is a huge coin flip. Caleb has played really good and played extremely bad in different matches. They're both, Caleb is newer to the Pokemon scene, doesn't really know all the nuances that somebody that's playing for a little bit longer might pick up on, typings, immunities, things like that. But, Caleb's team is really stacked. Landy T is one of the best tier 1s out there. Rotom Heat is very good for being fire and electric type. Two more frail typings, I think, if you think in the general sense. I love Mamoswine. I think it's super underutilized or underrated. Gardevoir and Magnezone have been, solid picks for him in some of the most recent weeks. Executor fills a role and can do some utility things. Beware is kind of really, really good, actually. Pikachu is kind of a throw pick. It's a mascot pick, but I respect it. Hitmonlee is what, the worst spinner. I don't know. Maybe that's a hot take, but Jellicent I think is really, really cool. So I really love Caleb's team. I think there's a lot of neat things that it can do. We've seen him do well with it before. But, not discounting Harry's team. Latias and Gyarados and Alakazam, all three of those are just straight up scary threats in their own right without trying to build around them. Mimikyu and Galarian Slowbro have had, really good moments throughout the season. Escavalier is a defensive wall in some certain senses. Comfey has got a really cool ability, and I think is a really good fairy type. Cofagrigus and Ditto and Exploud, kind of in that tier 5 range, give him some interesting things to look at. Potentially there's a little bit of trick room here. Potentially there's some really fast scarf sweepers with Moxie or just kind of good move sets. So there's a lot of things that Harry's team can do, and I can't wait to see what happens with this game, because I really don't know who's going to win. It's a 50-50 in my brain, but I guess I'm going to give the slight edge to Caleb, just because I think his team's a little bit more straightforward in how you team build. and that's the consolation bracket. So Caleb and Harry will play their game. The winner will go ahead and face the loser of the wild card bracket in the championship bracket. So let's take a look at that overall. Our wild card round, Quincy defeated Dylan. The bug catchers advancing on to the quarterfinals. Saffron jumping down to the semifinals of the consolation bracket. And now in the one game that hasn't been played yet for the wild card round, but it sounds like DJ and Ruben are going to play tonight. We have the Laughlin Laurantis and the Tyrannosaurus Rex. They're playing in the last deciding wildcard round. The winner will go ahead and play the Jamestown Judgment in round 1 in the quarterfinal, and the loser will drop to that second semifinal game in the consolation bracket. So Caleb and Harry, the winner of that game, will play the loser of DJ and Ruben. So that's kind of a look at the overall wildcard round and how that's going to work out. The quarterfinals, like we said, the Jamestown Judgment will play the winner of Laughlin and Tyrannosaurus. The other game in the top half of the bracket is the Kalamazoo Raichu and the Edmonton Ice Cues, the clash in Canada. And then you have on the bottom half of the bracket, Evan Swagland and the bug catchers going head to head in the first game, and then the second game, the battle at bite speed, Fargo Flygons and Kindred Kingdras going head to head in that last game in the quarterfinal. So this is single elimination, so you lose and you're done, you go home, you win, you keep going on. So this is for all the marbles now. There's no do-overs, there's no mulligans. It's all or nothing from this point out. So let's take a look at that wild card round. We have the Laughlin Laurantis at 3-4 against the Tyrannosaurus Rex, also at 3-4. DJ versus Ruben, like we said, this game is happening tonight, it sounds like. For DJ, we've got Zapdos, Venusaur, Chandelure, Klefki, Ninetales, Inteleon, Golurk, Laurantis, Altaria, and Sirfetch'd. DJ made quite a few moves, free agency and trades here in the last couple of weeks of the regular season. So if you remember his draft to what his team looks like now is a completely different team. He's got a little bit of a Sun Core happening with Ninetales, Venusaur, Chandelure. And we've seen Zapdos be a key part. Klefki's got really good utility. Golurk is a physical, force that you have to prepare for. Laurantis, with a stupid ability, could be a really big pain in the ass depending on how he uses it. Altaria, he's used as a meme. Pear Song is funny and it's worked a couple of times, but I don't foresee that being a strategy he goes for moving forward, just because I think now that we're into playoffs and teams are going to prep and recognize that that's a kind of a thing that he's done, I don't think it'll be as effective as the surprises that he's been able to pull out. And then Sirfetch'd just scary because its ability and the leak are just crit city. So it depends on kind of how he decides to set his team up and run with it. But DJ is looking much better than he did at the beginning of the season. On the other side of this match is the Tyrannosaurus Rex and Ruben. 3-4, played in an extremely tough division with Sean, myself, and Quincy and Noah all in Division 1. But he's got a really, really solid team and has played extremely well. That record of 3-4 could have easily been 5-2 or even maybe better. So for Ruben, he's got a little bit of a sand team. So Tyranitar, Dracozolt, got the Regidrago that I don't think he's even used yet this season. Goodra and Reuniclus, both special attackers and specially defensive, got some natural bulk. Golisopod with first impression and just a banded Golisopod can one-shot a lot of different things. Tyrantrum, he's put a scarf on that thing and it's been a monster. So far in this season, it's just wrecking through teams. Braviary, Aggron, and Turtonator in the bottom half, or the bottom tier for him. All solid mons in their own right, if used correctly. So I really, really, really think this is going to be a slugfest of a game. And I can definitely see like either of these teams coming out on top. We've got a little bit of a weather war going on with sun on DJ's team and sand on Ruben's team. And I think that this could be a really fun game to watch. And depending on how the teams are built, it could be, it could be a sweep. It could be a 1-0 game. I don't think that it's going to be, anywhere in between there. I think, both of these teams have the ability to just blow each other out. And I'm looking at Tarantrum on the just like a mon to watch for sure, just because of how hard it hits. And if you put a scarf on it, it gets pretty decent speed. The Drakazalt obviously in the sand is terrifying. Boltbeak hurts a lot of different things. But on the same vein, like DJ has done extremely out of the box things this season, and I'm sure is ready for what Ruben's going to throw at him. This game is going to be crazy. It's another 50-50. I don't really know what's going to happen. But I'm going to give the slight edge to DJ just because I think the experience and a little bit more out of the box thinking could be the difference in this match. And he's the season 1 champion, so we have to give him a little bit of wiggle room as far as like what you could do in a 50-50 match. Not discounting Ruben at all. I think either of these teams have the ability to win and go and then play Noah in the quarterfinal. So definitely one to watch, and if we get to see this live happen tonight, it'll be exciting for sure. Get your popcorn ready. Speaking of that first quarterfinal, the winner of that wildcard game will go and play the Jamestown Judgment, the only undefeated team this season, coached by Noah. So Noah's team, I think, got better through a couple of different key switches, especially at the very end of the season. Rillaboom in Tier 1 is just an insta-kill on some things. Grassy Glide, Swords Dance, and then, those two moves together on a grassy terrain is so scary. And Rillaboom's naturally a little bit bulky, can take a hit or two, and then be able to really just punish things with Grassy Glide or Wood Hammer or anything really on its repertoire. His Tier 2 Mons, Metagross, has been super versatile for him. He's run defensive, he's run offensive. It's been able to kind of be in the mix every week, no matter what set he's doing. Maybe a little bit on hey, I know what's coming side of things, but definitely something that you need to respect because it's got such high potential for offensive output and defensive play style. Hatterene, a pickup that he got right before the end of the season, just kind of completes his Trick Room side of this team. It's not super fast, it's not super slow, but he's got stuff that really benefits from a Trick Room. And Hatterene being as good as it is, just in its own right, outside of Trick Room, and then you give it access to setup and support the Drampa. This is scary if you're not ready for Trick Room. Haxorus, he's brought a lot. It's, I think, kind of underperformed a little bit as far as what I think he was hoping to get out of it, but is something that you have to respect. It can run first impression, it can run close combat, it can run a whole bunch of different utility or different type moves, and it's something that you need to watch out for. Incineroar, I think, is a Tier 2 or a Tier Mon stuck in the meme form of a wrestling cat. It's so bulky and so, I think Noah has said it a couple of different times, that Incineroar is his MVP for this season for sure. It's been able to take hits on the physical or the special side, deal out good damage, and just be something that is hard to break down. Hitmontop and Gastrodon, both really bulky defensive mons in that Tier 4 slot. Lapras complements his Trick Room team a little bit if you want to like really just like speed nerf it. Just kind of a cool mon to fill out his team. Drampa is ridiculous with the choice specs, and in Trick Room it's slow. It hits like in the 600s with his special attack. And then you have Cincino, which, you know, Garrett used in Season 1 to great effect. Was a kill leader in Season 1. And definitely something that, like, it just is hard to play around. So, Noah's got a really scary team, and I definitely think that, you know, his 7-0 record in not only in Division 1, but overall, it really speaks to how well he's playing, and I definitely think he's the favorite moving into this playoff. So, that's your first quarterfinal. Again, he'll play the winner of DJ and Ruben. Quarterfinal number 2, I'm dubbing this the Clash in Canada. It's 2 5-2 teams. Sean and Garrett going head to head in the first round of the playoffs. And I don't know how we got this lucky to see this matchup right away. But it's definitely exciting to see, and both these teams are going to bring it hard. For Garrett, we've got Volcarona, Aegislash, Slowking, Cobalion, Crobat, Alolan Executor, Mudsdale, Scrafty, Whimsicott, and Heliolisk. Dane Cook! That's for you, Garrett. On Sean's team, we have Galarian Zapdos, Skarmory, Silvally, Alolan Marowak, Lycanroc Dusk, Dragalge, Vaporeon, Meowstic, Manectric, and Excelgor. Both of these teams kind of made some trades or made some switch ups towards the end of the year, more so on Sean's side than Garrett. But Garrett picked up 2 kind of like comfort picks from last season in Whimsicott and Aegislash. You know, when you look at Garrett's team overall, Volcarona, I think, has not been the tier 1 force that I think Garrett was looking for. But he's been able to find wins without really even using it. So, you know, a dangerous thing in the back that you definitely need to play around and think about. Aegislash is extremely powerful on the offensive side, and you know, has really good defensive abilities or, you know, defensive moves that help it survive. Slowking, I think, is super cool as somebody who used Slowbro and Regenerator in Season 1. I love Slowking. Cobalion, I think, is a little weak spot on his roster. You know, he was trying to shop it around towards the end of the season. But it lands still in his roster, and I think could still be a good role player. Crobat is great. It's got a ton of different utility. He's used it in a number of different move sets and different roles. Just having access to like Super Fang and U-Turn, I think in itself means, you know, a lot in the overall team structure. Alolan Executor is... I don't really even know. He's used it a couple of times. It's got cool typing. Grass Dragon's really out there, but you know, could be really good in that Trick Room style of a team. Mudsdale is just a pony boy, is thick, and he's used it very well on defensive and offensively this year. Scrafty is something that you need to look out for with Moxie, and you know, has good abilities, you know, either of his abilities. Whimsicott as a prankster, Tailwind or Leech Seed or anything is something that you need to at least think about, and you know, as far as like an offensive threat, it's an enabler for other stuff on his team, but it's definitely like a good pickup for what he wants to do moving into the last, you know, into the playoffs here. And then Heliolisk, Dane Cook, my favorite mon from Season 1, or not Season 1, from this season, just throughout the videos and stuff. Good abilities, good access to a number of different moves that really complement what its typing is and kind of the role that it needs to fill in the team. So Garrett's team is scary. On the Edmonton Ice Cube side, we've got Galarian Zapdos, which I think has also underperformed for Sean a little bit. he's brought it a number of different times, and it's been able to make an impact, but not be that, like, you know, oh my gosh, I have to prep for this thing every single week because it's scary kind of threat for him. On the opposite side of that, he's been able to find ways to make skarmory extremely useful, hazard stacking, whirlwind, things like that. So Volley is so versatile because its typing can be anything. So that makes it, you know, really hard to prep for. Alolan Marowak we've seen pop off here in the last couple weeks in, you know, that slow Trick Roomy style. I feel like every team wants to run Trick Room except mine. And Lycanroc Dusk, super fast, hits super hard. It almost swept me in the last game. Jerk Algae has adaptability, which makes it extremely terrifying on the special side. Vaporeon is a good cleric and a good special tank. Meowstic, his access to screens and all sorts of other things like that. Manectric has yet to be used. That was one of his late season pickups that could make things interesting if electric typing is important. And then a Selgor obviously is super fast and could be kind of that like glass cannon to fill out his lineup. So trying to call this game is so hard because Sean started the year 0-1, then won 5 games straight, and then played me in week 7, and I was able to squeak out a win that he easily could have gotten. So Sean is playing at the top of his game right now, and he's finding ways to win without really getting that tier 1 production. But then again, so is Garrett. He has not used Volcarona as much as you would think a tier 1 would get used, and he's finding ways to win. We haven't really seen what Aegislash can do quite yet. And I think there's a lot of different things on his roster. I think this is, again, like a 50-50, as close as it can be. I'm going to go... The spirits, the Loa are talking to me. I'm going to say it's a 1-0, and Sean gets the upset. So let's talk about Evan Swaglin and the Bug Catchers. Colin has proven that he is no joke, and just kind of ripped and torn his way through the Division 2. His team, Corviknight, Como, Azumarill, Porygon2, Snorlax, Slurpuff, Mienshao, Dugtrio, Mawile, and Relicanth. Snorlax is 15-3. Just let that sink in. On the other side, the Bug Catchers, Latios, Charizard, Among Us, Togekiss, Blastoise, Gallade, Corsola-G, Scyther, Shuckle, and Absol. Quincy has been at the top of what I would consider the coaches that are preparing well every single week. He's brought different and interesting things every single game to be able to give him a chance to win. And I think that he is going to prep super, super hard for this game. Colin has really benefited off the fact that nobody can seem to figure out how to kill a Snorlax, which obviously is a thing. It's super bulky, can set up, and it can tear through teams. The Slurpuff also is a really good setup mon that he's used, and it's in third at 11-2 in the kill race. So he's found ways to use setup mons to be able to really just rip and tear through those 6 wins that he has. And I think with Quincy's prep and how well he kind of understands how to kind of play around threats, I think that this game will be extremely close as well. And this is another one where I think, you know, for Colin, we're going to see his like tried and true setup, other threats like Como that can just kind of fire off things to soften up the team, and then kind of rely on that Snorlax Slurpuff to finish off the job. I think Quincy's going to be ready for that, and this is another like another game where I think we're going to see an upset. For my money, it's on Quincy and the Bug Catchers. I'm sorry, Colin. I personally have a little bit invested into this game just because the winner is who the winner of my game will play. So if I'm able to win, I would play the winner of this matchup. So, if I'm thinking, ideally, like my perfect playoff bracket for myself personally is a really close game against Peyton that I get to win, a rematch against Quincy. That was our week 1 game. And then I either play Noah or Sean in the finals, which would be cool, just as far as like, hey, me personally. But I think this game is going to be really, really fun to watch. I think Quincy, with his prep and just how his team is built, can overcome what's going on and get a dub. And then finally, the last match that we're going to talk about is the Fargo Flygons against the Kindred Kingers. It's the battle for bite speed. If you didn't know, Peyton used to work for Bitespeed. And this is going to be super fun for me personally, and just kind of watching what's going to happen. We've got Garchomp, Conkeldurr, Scizor, Pelipper, Kingdra, Sylveon, Arcanine, Lantern, Lickilicky, and Galvantula. On my side, Peyton has Regieleki, Hawlucha, Primarina, Seismitoad, Obstagoon, Indeedee, Bronzong, Weezing, Magmortar, and Frostmoth. This is going to be a super fun game. I'm not going to talk too much about strategy because we still got to play it. But I think I'm going to give the slight edge to me. And we'll talk more about that later. But Peyton's got a super great team. He's played super well. And we're going to have to think outside the box to be able to beat him. I would not be surprised if I lose. Peyton's great. This team, Obstagoon, is super scary. Hawlucha popped off in the first week that he picked it up. And, he's got super big threats in Primarina that's also bulky. Seismitoad, scary in the rain, which kind of is like a core part of my team. And he's got some stuff that make it hard to prep for. So on my side, obviously, Garchomp being able to kind of figure that out. It's like, hey, this is physical or special offensive. Conkeldurr and Scizor are super scary. We have the rain core. And we've got some bulk and some utility in the bottom half of my roster. So I'm excited to see how this game goes. So that's your playoff picture. That is how everything looks as far as consolation bracket, championship bracket. Good luck to all the teams. And we'll see kind of what happens starting tonight because we have that wild card game between DJ and Ruben. So good luck with your games. Thanks, everybody. And man, let's have a good playoff.